Diversity is a key element across our cities, communities, and of course, work. It's the interconnection between us as individuals with distinct identities and within communities where we belong. But how do we ensure that everyone finds that sense of belonging, regardless of gender or ethnicity, and has the opportunity to contribute their unique perspectives? Today, it is an honor for me to bring in the City of Burnaby's CHRO, Chief Human Resource Officer, Anita Bhandari, who is also a recent finalist in the 2023 YWCA Metro Vancouver Women of Distinction Awards, to share her personal experience and discover how she has led the charge for people change, shaping the city to be citizen-centric. Welcome to Progress Not Perfection, the leadership podcast where we grow through what we go through. My name is Jay Kiew and I'll be your co-pilot. Each episode, we sit down with leaders to explore how they build companies and communities, products and services with a vision for the greater good. We dig into how they create clarity in chaos as they wrestle with messy situations and also how they navigate their own career journeys along the way. If you're ready, let's step to it. Anita Bhandari, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I am humbled and honored, first off. Can I just say that? Because you are a finalist in the 2023 YWCA Metro Vancouver Women of Distinction Awards. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're agreeing to hang out with me on a podcast? That's amazing. First off, congratulations on being a finalist. Tell us, you're the CHRO over at the City of Burnaby. What does all of this mean? What does it mean to be selected to be a woman of distinction? What do you think made you a finalist in this?
Wow, Jay, I don't know how to start off with that. First of all, I want to say thank you. It's absolutely amazing for you even saying that. Thank you so much. For me, it means a lot. I think it's really exciting. It's a great recognition. And for me, the part that's really humbling is it's my staff, the mayor, our DCAO that nominated me and put in their recognition letters. So it means the world. I think in general, just being part of that group is an honor. If you look at all the individuals that were recognized on that list, they're amazing women. So I am humbled. I think the work that YWCA does is amazing, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Awesome. Very cool. You have had a really long career, mostly on the people side of things, helping drive people change. I understand that you've been the CHRO at the City of Burnaby for just about over a year now. What's that journey been like? What kind of change are you looking to drive? Talk to us a little bit about that.
It's been absolutely amazing. When people find a position that really aligns with them and they feel like they belong, they flourish. I have an absolutely amazing CAO who cares about his people, cares about the community, mayor and council as well. They really care about the citizens. We have a great relationship with the unions. The staff are amazing, and even myself and people and culture have a great team. So what is it like? Well, I absolutely love it. I think I'm in an environment where I'm able to truly be myself and put forward ideas that I think will help move the city of Burnaby forward and make a difference.
Awesome. Awesome. As you know, I'm a resident of the City of Burnaby, and my whole profile is all about being citizen centric. I was really am on this search to find out what citizen centric leadership looks like. And I guess I'd be curious, because you've had a much longer career than just being at the City of Burnaby over the span of the last few decades, what have you noticed in terms of citizen centric leadership? What does that mean to you? How have you seen it be brought to life?
So, Jay, I'm going to switch this around a little bit here. Being a citizen of Burnaby, tell me, how do you feel? How do you like it?
Oh, okay. I love it because I feel like all of our needs are met in a really good way. For me, I go work out at the community centers. I play squash at Bonzer. To have access is a big thing for me. As I look ahead, as you know, I'm a dad. My kid's like a little too young to be using the community centers yet. Maybe actually she's not. But to have access to daycares that are close by, roads that are well maintained, buildings and developments, right? Like you name it. One of the things as I talk to different leaders across different municipalities and provincial ministries is this piece around how Burnaby consistently has a well set up pool of money that then goes back into the citizens and developing services for them. So I'm happy.
Oh,
No complaints yet.
yeah.
I'll let you know if I do, but
Well, make sure you do. You have my direct line. You know,
yeah.
the reason why I ask you, Jay, is that's what I want to hear. When I look at the city, I do believe we are citizen centric. What that means for me is being an organization that truly understands what our people want, how they want to be served, how they want to be treated, removing those biases, those invisible and visible barriers for our people, whether it be our community or our internal people. So hearing you say that, that actually puts a real big smile on my face because it tells me we are doing what we need to do. For me as a leader in the organization, I think it's important to always continue to have this dialogue with my staff and get them to understand that what we do is truly serve the community, and you've got to put your heart behind it and try to foster and create that sense of belonging and give them what they need so they truly love being a citizen of Burnaby. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for saying that. I'm going to go back and let Leon, Noreen, and the mayor know so they can hear these good things. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder as like the needs of our citizens shift to what that means for you, because I feel like with pandemic concerns kind of like slowly dropping down, I've seen a huge rise in mental health
Yeah. Yeah.
issues and a bit of a lack of support, not just in our city, but I'd say across the province and across the country where mental health support is necessary. What do you think?
There's a technical way of doing things. You'll get law, you'll get policy, but there's a piece that we have to be a little bit more open to. And I think it's bringing that empathy into the decisions we make. We need to learn to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and really understand where they're coming from to help guide them in the direction that they need to go. So for me, I think right now the world is evolving, and I think homelessness is not something that's going to disappear overnight. There's illnesses, there's a lot more reasoning behind it that I'm not an expert behind. And, I don't think, to tell you the truth, I don't think there is anybody that's a true, full blown expert behind this. Otherwise, we would have resolved it. And I know we've had countless discussions at council, through flows, through even our bylaw areas, parks, but I'll tell you, we have a committed city, and they're trying everything within their power to continue to support the citizens and try to move this forward. So empathy, huge, Jay. If you ask me, I think it's huge, and we should adopt it into everything we do, including our own personal lives, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, my views on homelessness have matured over the years. I when I was young, naive, probably still am, but
We all are. We all are, Jay.
but I remember back in 2018, a lot of the views, and then this is ignorant and naive of myself, but I remember driving by with my wife on Boundary, and there's often people begging on the sides, and my wife's always like, "Come on, like let's just drop a toonie or something," and I'm like, "No, they're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna buy drugs with it," and I think my views have changed quite a lot because one of my good friends, Petros, we were grabbing lunch at Tim Hortons when he noticed a homeless man right outside, and he's like, "Hey, is there anything I can get for you?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And that totally reframed my perspective to say, "Hey, oh my gosh, I can just ask if they need food,"
Yeah.
right? Like they could, and by the way, every time I ask now, sometimes they're like, "No, we're good because we stand outside Tim Hortons. We get fed all the time." Um, and other times they're like, "Yeah, could I get a donut or a sandwich or something like that?" But I
Yeah.
think to your point about us living empathy out personally,
Yeah.
that's how we learn, right? Slowly through interactions. And so I think there's this role and agency for us to step in and
It is.
take
Jay,
responsibility.
Jay, it's weird is, we as human beings, we're not perfect. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we have these unconscious biases that we need to
Mm,
start being a little bit more aware of, is really it. And only through the constant, reminder to ourselves will we be able to evolve that thought process. It's, even for us and my family, we have a lot of talks about this, is,
mm,
just understanding you don't know where that person's from. And, how do you give back? So same thing as your story with your friend is my husband does that all the time. Every time we'll leave McDonald's, he'll buy like an extra coffee. Those are things that, you start doing and it becomes normal and you accept people and you empathize with them. And that's what you should do. Everybody's different.
And they spark, by the way, what your husband is doing, right? That sparks when other people see that.
Yeah.
They start doing it themselves. And so it becomes this really cool pay it forward notion. Like, I don't know if you've ever been at a Starbucks and the barista's like, no, you're good.
Yes.
The person before you threw down 100 and you're set.
I have.
The next 10 people are set too.
I have. And it feels amazing. You're like, wow, really? And you got this big smile on your face. But yeah, it does trickle because then you're like, oh, let me pay for that one. So yes, and I think really it's funny is, we as society, we got to start doing more stuff like that is start empathizing, giving back, being a little bit more, I don't know what that word is creating an environment where we're a little bit more relaxed and we accept people and we do those things without thought. So yeah.
Yeah. You'd brought up it's important to know where we came from.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about where you come from and how you think that shapes who you are today.
Oh, it's funny is I really believe everybody has their story and it shapes who you are. And, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, I wish I had this. Or, I wish I would have done this. But now I look back at my past and I say, I'm thankful for everything I had. And it's gotten me to where I am. It's really helped shape my views. So for me, being a woman of color, Indian, growing up in a primarily a European community, it was different. I was first generation moving to Canada. I had my dad and my mom, they worked two jobs each, labor type jobs in the morning, cleaning buildings at night. And, I remember for me, it was always, oh no, I need to fit in. People can't know what my family does, or, even the way I dressed or I acted was very different outside of work, or sorry, outside of home, the way I acted in school. And, that kind of trickled for me in my early career as well. It was always, oh no, this is what the norm is. This is what you need to be like. And I did continue to move forward in my career, but I think I always felt this little bit of a disconnect. And I don't know how to explain it. It's not like people were terrible to me. I just did not feel like I belonged. And I always felt like I had to try to be something different. And, through my journey, I started to kind of hear my own voice and start feeling more confident in who I am. And it was because of certain individuals and experiences I had, like my best friend who traveled the world comes back and really curious to who is Anita. Forget about this Anita that goes out with us during the weekend. I remember one of my closest friends, he's a retired firefighter, Dane Spence. When I worked at Maple Ridge, me and him used to go for these side walks or, drives just to talk about life. And he'd always say to me, forget about what they tell you to be or do. Just be yourself. Be authentic to yourself because people love you for who you are. And just those type of experiences. So for me, the journey's been a little bit difficult. I think, we all have our struggles in finding ourselves, and we all have our stories being from different ethnicities, genders, non-gendered, or, we face our individual challenges. But I feel like I'm in a spot in my life where I feel very happy with who I am. And I'm at a point where I want to start expressing more of who the authentic Anita is. And I want to share that with more people. I also, through my learning, what I want to start doing is I want to start creating an environment where people can truly come in and start being themselves so they don't have to be somebody else their entire life. And all of a sudden, 45 years later, being able to unmask themselves and be themselves. Wouldn't it be great if we could just start from the very beginning and give people that space and accept them for who they are so they can flourish all the way through? I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. You did.
Very, well, actually, I'm going to tell you this. Have you ever heard of Sheryl Sandberg?
Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Do you have a Facebook?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess a lot of people do know who she is. I don't personally know her, but I would love to. She,
Hey, Cheryl, what's up?
yeah, she wrote this book called Lean In. What I learned from that book was, especially as a woman, you have these barriers that you don't even realize in these glass ceilings. And in order to really flourish in an organization, you need to lean in. But the leaning in is not only you, but what you need to do is get others to support you so you can truly be present, so you can move forward. And she also talks about, you as individuals, you need to trust in yourself. And many men do that, is they'll go in and be very confident, but we as women, we double guess ourselves before we make decisions. So
Yeah.
I guess why I'm sharing that is, for me, what I took away from that was not only the fact that you need to lean in, but we need to start removing those barriers for others. So kind of flipping it around, as
Hmm.
me as a leader now, is taking what she said, is understanding that this is what many of us women or individuals of color or different ethnicities, cultures face. We as leaders need to start recognizing that, and taking away those barriers and those obstacles, and start thinking on, what do we do to create that environment where people feel like they belong and they don't have to face these
Yeah.
obstacles.
Yeah. And like, let me ask you this then, Anita. What are some of those barriers? And I ask this from the lens of, you and I both don't have accents, or we have very Canadian accents,
Yeah.
right? I'm Singaporean, you're Indian, I grew up in Langley, which was like half Caucasian and half Korean at the time. It's probably shifted by now. But to your point about like kind of feeling not part of any one group,
Yeah.
right? In some ways, I'm curious, what do you think those barriers are when it comes to heritage? Because I think that's top of mind,
Yes.
especially as we head into May and Asian Heritage Month. And I'm like, I'm Singaporean, I eat Singaporean food, right? But
Yeah.
what are the barriers? Do I even know what I'm being exposed to or limited by?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I'm not an expert by all means, and I go with my gut. So I'll tell you what I
Yeah.
feel and I think, and hopefully nobody holds me to that. I think we sometimes put up our own barriers as well, and others. So let me give you an example. Is we come from a certain culture, and there's certain things we do within our culture, and I don't know what it is sometimes you go out and you're celebrating it, and there's certain pieces of it in your country or my country, we would go full blown and do it and be very happy about it, and everybody knows what's going on. And then you come to a country like Canada, and you kind of deflate that, because I don't know what it is internally we create this embarrassment. We feel a little bit embarrassed about ourselves, where we come from in that full celebration. So I guess if you're asking me, what I think is, I think we need to start truly understanding who we are, where we come from, and why we do what we do, and be very proud of it and share it. And then I think on the flip side for individuals is not asking questions to be part of it, but asking questions because you truly want to know, and be part of it. Does that make sense? It's very different,
Oh, yeah.
and those are things that I don't think you can switch overnight, but I think it's going to be
Mm.
us as individuals also starting to feel more confident in where we come from.
So, if I may fanboy a little bit about the Indian culture, back when I was doing my master's, one of the things I loved was probably about 20% of my class was Indian. And they wore that on their sleeve, that fact, because what they exposed us to and involved us in were things like a Bollywood style flash mob,
Yeah.
where they would involve us in like learning the dance moves. And then Holi, which was, I don't know if I'm
Holy,
pronouncing that
holy,
right.
that's okay.
Holy? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Holy. I'm sorry. Where they would just like paint our t-shirts. It was a blast.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, oh, what is that for Singapore? And so I guess I'd be curious, is it on the individual, right, to kind of step up and say, hey, back home, we've got this
Oh,
holiday coming up, right, where this is what we do, and would love to share that a little bit.
Yeah.
within a corporate setting too. Do you think it's on the individual? And then to your point about removing barriers, is there
Yeah.
also the opportunity to invite? What do you think?
I'm going to share something with you. I'll give you an insight of what we're doing, but don't share it with anybody else,
Yeah, it's
except
just
for
public.
everybody on this podcast. So at the city, like I'll share what we're doing here. I started about a year and a half ago, and one of the things that I had brought in was an EDI senior manager. And one of the things we talked about is, we need to do something to create an environment where people feel like they belong, start removing those barriers, and truly weaving in diversity into the fabric of what we are as the city of Burnaby. And the first year, what we decided is we're just going to do various celebrations every month so we can learn. And it's not just a celebration, but it's bringing out people that represent that culture within the city to talk and educate, and we celebrate one of the customs related to it, knowing that's not sustainable. The idea was this year was to get everybody excited and start learning about the different diverse cultures that really make up Burnaby. The idea for us though is at the end of the year, or right now, we're actually in the middle of doing EDI assessments. And this is what I encourage people to do. Not go out and do a big EDI assessment, but get an understanding of your landscape. Like, who are your people? Where do they come from? And then start celebrating them. And it goes two ways. So for me is obviously I'm not every single culture in that department, but what I'm doing in our department is we are inviting people to celebrate themselves, and we give them the platform to share with the organization. So, in the last little while, we've celebrated Black History Month, Nowruz, we're going to do Eid. So, going back to your question, Jay, I always want to make sure I get your question because I can trail off. Is I think it goes two ways. I think we as individuals need to be proud of where we are, learn more about it, and share it. So everybody needs to do
Mm,
their part. And then I think as employers or individuals that are leading organizations or head of schools, what they need to do
yeah.
is create that space to recognize their people, like their students,
Mm,
their staff, those that come to their facilities, their citizens, whatever it is. So it goes two ways. It's not going to change overnight, Jay. I think what it's going to take is all of us starting to feel more comfortable with who we are, and all of us creating a sense of belonging for everybody. So making people feel like they're welcome.
yeah.
And so it's going to be an evolution, but I have no doubt in my mind. I can't speak for the world, maybe one day, but you know our CAO is doing that. He hired
Mm,
me, and you'll look at some cities as you don't have the CHRO reporting to the CAO. He did that. And
mm,
he did that
mm-hmm.
because he believes in the people. He also gives all of us the autonomy to do what we need to do. All the GMs, we get to, he trusts us. He gives us the autonomy to make those decisions. And if we make mistakes, we don't get in trouble. We look at it as how do we correct it and how do we move forward? It's interesting as I've worked at three different cities, and they're amazing. I've had great CAOs, so nothing to say about any of them. But I think Leon has something very special about him that
Mm,
helps create this. So what I'm saying is we all need to start creating that space and doing that for our people so they can celebrate celebrations like Visaki. And I bet you those people that did it were individuals that were very proud of where they come from and felt very comfortable and had that space to celebrate it. So you better do that. I'm going to find out what you're going to be celebrating for your heritage. I'll be giving you a call.
yeah. Yeah. One of the things we try to do, to your point about like accommodating and accounting for minorities like me, right? Where I'm like, oh, you know what my favorite dish really is? It's mee goreng. And that's a Malay slash Indian dish, depending on who's cooking it.
Yeah.
And for Lunar New Year, right? One year we just brought it. We're like, there's the dumplings over here, the shumai, and then you've got mee goreng. And for me to just share that, it brings me joy. Obviously, it's my favorite dish.
No, I
So,
want some. Make sure you come by our
yeah.
office. I've never had it.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned how Leon really has uplifted you in some ways, and
Yes.
you have his support and buy-in.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have a rap quote for you.
Okay.
It's by Macklemore, and it's the second time I've dropped a Macklemore line in a podcast episode in 2 weeks.
I gotta
So,
tell my kids this when I get off. They're gonna be so
yeah.
excited.
So he launched an album called Ben, probably about a month ago, and he has the song called Tail Lights. In it, there's just 2 lines that really stick out to me, and I love it. It says, "Virgil said that when you make it to the penthouse, it's your duty to send the elevator back down." Virgil said that when you make it to the penthouse, it's your duty to send the elevator back down.
Yeah.
And I would just be curious, and I would love to land this plane here. We've spoken about lifting people up. We've spoken about leading as an Asian Canadian female for yourself. What does that verse mean to you when you hear it?
Well, let me say I do like Macklemore. So, I think it means paying it forward. What was the theme for anti-bullying? There was a theme, it was called Lifting People Up, is what people were using this year for the theme. And the theme really was about we get to where we are by people lifting us up and getting there. Nobody gets anywhere completely by themselves. There's something, either your parents, your family, some sort of influence that's guided you to where you are. And I think it's important to send that back down and bring others up as well. And that's what we
Yeah.
need to do as leaders. And I think, another thing for me that I'm trying to figure out as well is the barriers that we as women and colored individuals face as well is, you know, we can be that change. And I think we need to be that change. We need to start making those steps in our workplace where we support other women, individuals,
Mm,
minorities, so they can also move forward. Give them what they
yeah.
need so they can get to the next floor as well, because it gets lonely up here. You need more people on this
Yeah.
floor. I don't know if that makes
Oh,
sense, but
100%.
yeah.
100%. This is very relevant, by the way. Last night, I was part of a fraternity back at UBC years ago. It was called Alpha Kappa Psi. Every year at the end of the year, they have this banquet called the Yellow Rose Banquet. It's like a formal. They invited me out as the old guy. So I got to hang out, and it was remarkable. Like, back when we had started, it was maybe 30 people, and now it's grown to 80. And when they started rattling off what they were all going to be working on for the next year, it blew me away.
Yeah.
Where like the next generation, the 15 to 25-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
I was like, these people are amazing. And they're humbled that I was there. I was humbled to be there more so than anything else, right? Because I could see the life, the culture, the connections and relationships that they were building. And so honestly, sometimes we get credit for like lifting them up. I feel like they often just step up and
Oh,
step into it too.
oh yeah.
So, last question for you.
Okay.
I know I said last question, but I have one more that came up. How do your hopes for your kids match your hopes for your career?
Wow.
Big question. I know.
You never prepared me for this one, Jay. I need to Google something here. No,
Something.
I'm gonna kind of divide this up. I
Mm,
don't know what the future holds for my kids and all kids, but I think what we can do is pave that path for them. I think what we need to start doing is start removing some of those obstacles that we're currently seeing in the workplace, in society, and start really living and breathing it. So by the time our kids get to where we are, they can create an even better world and remove the obstacles for the next. So kind of like send the elevator back down with some good stuff
hmm
and bring them up with you. I feel like there's so much we can do. And I'm actually like you is I'm really excited about the next generations and like I said is I look at you and I love it. I'm inspired and I think you're doing some amazing things and just like my kids, I can't wait to see what they do. One other thing I love about this younger generation is they have already removed some of these unconscious biases. And sometimes my own
Right.
kids make me check in to my thoughts, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And even the whole thing around how people identify. Me and my daughter have
hmm
had lengthy conversations about that. And that's where I came to that conclusion a year and a half ago is it's really just about creating a space where people feel like they belong and they can be seen and heard as who they are. like their authentic selves, and stop trying to categorize people yourself. Let them categorize themselves, but just create this space that everybody just feels welcome.
I love that. I couldn't have said that better myself. Paving pathways and creating space for the next generation. Wow. You are a gem. I feel like you just dropped all this wisdom on me, and I'm like, what do I do with this?
Oh, Jay, it
But
goes two ways. It really does. And I'm gonna say thank you to you, Jay, is just even having me on this podcast. I've never done this. This is my very first time doing a podcast, but I felt very comfortable, and I'm very thankful for
okay.
you for giving me the space to be my authentic self and share some of my quirkiness and my views. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me on this lovely Thursday morning.
It was my pleasure. Thanks.
A huge thanks for Anita joining us today as we explored her inspiring journey of self-discovery and embracing authenticity. Her story reminds us that our past experiences shape who we are today, and that the support of our parents, families, and influential figures play a crucial role in our success. It is necessary to pave the path for future generations by removing obstacles and creating inclusive environments where everybody feels like they belong, especially as citizens in the Metro Vancouver area, or in Anita's case, Burnaby in particular. By supporting one another and sending the elevator back down, we can empower others to rise alongside us. As we look toward the future, Anita's excitement for the younger generation's ability to challenge biases and create a more accepting world is infectious. Embrace authenticity, support others on their journey, and be a catalyst for positive change. This is your host, Jay Kiew, and thank you so much for listening. Until next time, keep swinging at those shrubs.